What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So do you remember a little while ago, we were talking about Capcom expecting a big release still before the end of their fiscal year that would generate interest and millions of copies sold? Well, it appears, based on a recent rating, we may have found out what that game was a bit early, and we'll go over that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about the Nintendo Indie World Showcase and go over all the games that were announced there, and we'll also be taking a look at a Black Friday sale that appears set up for Nintendo in the UK, which could also give us an idea as to which games will be going on sale everywhere else. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure to hit that like button, helps out a ton, and if new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're going to start today with Hogwarts Legacy on the Switch. I was very curious to see how this would convert over exactly, since it's a fairly large game on the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series. They did, of course, also move it to the Xbox One and the PS4, and it seemed like the last stop would be on the Switch, and we have some comparisons for it, and yes, this does really show, again, just how old the technology in the Switch is getting. But like, for example, Switch Up did a very good sort of deep dive on it, giving us a bunch of comparisons to PC and others. And some of the things that were pointed out clearly would be the resolution, the texture work. But the one that really stood out to me was the load times that appear to also kind of break up the world a bit and just kind of change up the game itself. Rather than being a seamless world that, say, you walk between one area and then a town, there's an invisible load screen that you have to accept, and then it goes to a load of anywhere from 30 seconds to a full minute. So yeah, again, we're towards the end of the Switch's generation, we assume, and that we will be seeing Nintendo talk about their next hardware in, we'll say, the next half a year or so. But whew, the Switch getting long in the tooth, definitely showing its age. So definitely, I mean, take a look at that comparison before you rush out and pick it up on the Switch. I understand the Switch offers that portability factor, but definitely be aware of what you're getting for pretty much the same price. Also, Persona 5 Tactica is out later on this week on Friday, but reviews did go live, and we can see this posted up over on OpenCritic, which I'm going to use for this instance because it seemed like the reviews were split almost evenly between all the different platforms, and Metacritic keeps them all separated. So we'll take a look here at OpenCritic, currently sitting at a 79, which that's about right for, I'd say, Persona 5 Tactica. And we can take a look over on the reviews page. For example, IGN says Persona 5 Tactica is a big bag of bite-sized Phantom Thieves adventures that keeps the spirit of the series alive and shows that it can work great with a grid-based battle system. If we go on the other end of the spectrum here with the lowest score, we have the Game Creator says Persona 5 Tactica's deep turn-based mechanics and intriguing story are great, but it fails to live up to the very game it is based on. And then if we take a look at Well Played, they say Persona 5's toe-tapping tunes and infectious energy are present, but Tactica forgets to bring fresh ideas or variety. I think that's the biggest thing I've noticed throughout some of the reviews that were more middling is it's going to feel like a gameplay experience that you've done over and over again before this. It doesn't really take a lot of chances or introduce anything that's too new, kind of in that tactical strategy-based RPG. But if you're a fan of the Persona 5 universe in general, you're probably going to get a kick out of this one and checking it out, even on like Game Pass, as it's going there day one. Again, that coming out this Friday. Oh, and speaking of Game Pass, we did have a very brief update with another title heading into the service this month, which we can see this posted up over on news.xbox.com. Starting with Coral Island, that is out right now, today. That's Cloud, Xbox Series X and S. Of course, Persona 5 Tactica, that's on November 17th. Dune Spice Wars, though, that's November 28th, Cloud and console. And then, of course, we already talked about this, Rollerdrome, Cloud, PC, and Xbox Series X and S on November 28th. So there you go, just more games heading into the service for November, and definitely check out Rollerdrome. That is a game that I had a lot of fun with and I felt kind of flew under the radar. Seems like a really cool idea to add it into Game Pass. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with this mystery game from Capcom. Now, this also goes back to how things were translated over as unannounced, whereas apparently, according to VGC, it actually was undisclosed, as Capcom did release the official English translations for investors, which when you take a look at, yeah, undisclosed, meaning it could be a game we already know about, but doesn't have a release date yet. So when we go back and now reevaluate the lineup, Dragon's Dogma 2 came up a couple of times in terms of guessing till we thought, okay, unannounced. And in fact, it might actually be Dragon's Dogma 2, which seems weird for, well, a couple of reasons. But first, let's take a look at why people are thinking, okay, Dragon's Dogma 2 could be coming out in the next 4 or 5 months. So we can see this posted up over on VGC. And it appears to be a rating in Saudi Arabia for Dragon's Dogma 2, getting that 18 rating, kind of as we'd expect. Like, we figure Dragon's Dogma 2, it's going to be a mature rated game, so that makes sense there. But if you remember Dragon's Dogma 2, I feel like it was, what, a year and a half, maybe, ago that they announced it. And the way it was announced, I think, is the part that made many of us assume it is way off in the distance before it's coming out, because they just showed us a shirt. If you don't have anything to really show for the game at the time of announcement, most of us just assume it's like, you can kind of put it on the back burner for now in your mind, and we'll revisit this in 3 or 4 years. But I also asked around a bit, a couple of developers and people who are maybe a bit more familiar with getting a game trailer or demo ready, and sometimes you just have other things you gotta do when you're creating the game. And yeah, something as simple as showing a shirt for the fan base around Dragon's Dogma would be enough to get them excited. You don't really need to spend what could be months, believe it or not, to get a trailer or even kind of a quick gameplay snippet ready. And technically, at Tokyo Game Show, the game was playable. In fact, there are many people who had hands-on time and put out impressions around what they thought of Dragon's Dogma 2, which has me kind of hopeful that, yeah, okay, so could we be going into the Game Awards, just as an example, Dragon's Dogma 2 is there with its release date, and oh yeah, it's coming out in February or March, just ahead of the end of Capcom's fiscal year. I think that'd be really, really exciting stuff. And yeah, I could see Dragon's Dogma 2 selling a couple million copies. Look, it's not on the level, obviously, of Monster Hunter or Resident Evil or Devil May Cry, but I still think there'd be some excitement there, clearly, when they announced that release date, and I think it would do pretty well at launch, and then just also over time as Dragon's Dogma, especially Dark Arisen, really started to bring together kind of this following for the game. So exciting stuff there. We'll keep an eye out, but one way or the other, Capcom's gonna have to do an announcement pretty soon for this undisclosed game that apparently is coming out before March 31st, 2024, because we're kind of getting close to that. Next up, let's talk about Nintendo's Indie World presentation. This went on for about 21 minutes, and they showed quite a few games actually in that time, almost one game per minute. So let's start from the top here. We're gonna go everything that was announced, starting with Shantae Risky Revolution. This is a pretty fun release because it's a Game Boy Advance game from over 20 years ago that never was finished. Now, though, getting completed and will be releasing 2024. Really, really cool stuff there. Then we have Core Keeper. This is a procedurally generated, look like almost a dungeon crawler with 8-player online multiplayer. That coming out summer 2024. Then we have On Your Tail. It's a narrative life sim mystery game coming out 2024. Howl, it's a turn-based tactical folktale. That's out right now. The Star Named Eos, that's a puzzle-driven narrative adventure. You take pictures of the world to solve puzzles around you. That's spring 2024. Backpack Hero, this could be a genre all on its own where you organize your inventory in battle to, I guess, do damage and win, and you collect loot to rebuild your town. It's very, very unique idea. This is one of the things I really like coming out of these indie games, these showcases. You never know what you're going to see, and I definitely didn't expect an inventory management game to be one of the more interesting things coming out of it. That is out right now, though, so you can check it out. Blade Chimera, 2D action game. You know what? As soon as I saw this, I immediately thought of Symphony of the Night. I don't know if it's just the inspiration from the art style or the visuals or animation. I don't know. For some reason, I just immediately thought of Castlevania. That's spring 2024. It looks really cool, though. A Highland Song. You explore the Scottish Highlands to reach the sea. December 5th, 2023. Moonstone Island. That's a creature collecting, dungeon crawling, deck building, life sim. Also, there's farming. That's spring 2024. Death Trick Double Blind. It's a detective visual novel game. It's 2024. Outer Wilds. We had talked about this previously, how that was teased. It is indeed coming to the Switch December 7th, 2023. It's a space exploration open world adventure game, and you're trapped in a time loop and you gotta figure out what's going on. Now, this is where the sizzle reel kicked in. Planet Lana, that's spring 2024. Enjoy the Diner, that's out now. Heavenly Bodies, February 2024. The Gecko God, spring 2024. Pass Part Out 2. The Lost Artist, that's out now. Urban Myth Disillusion Center, that's 2024. And then Braid Anniversary Edition, April 30th, 2024. Very strange to kind of bury a Braid Anniversary Edition announcement just kind of in the sizzle reel at the end, but hey, there you go. In total, 18 games. A lot of, I'd say a very diverse lineup here of all kinds of different genres and ideas. And while you may have gone through this and said, yeah, nothing was really for me, you gotta admit, there's a lot of creative stuff coming out of these shows, and with 18 games, I'm sure most people can look at this and pick out maybe one or two that they'd at least take a shot at and see what they think of it, but not bad overall. Nothing that really is gonna jump out off the page and be memorable years from now, but it's always fun to see what some of the smaller developers can come up with, because let's face it, a lot of times they'll come up with the ideas, then the big AAA studios will come in and basically try to take the idea and then build something even bigger. But really, really cool stuff here. Of course, let me know in the comments which game maybe you found interesting or was your favorite from the show. Next up, let's talk about Black Friday, as Nintendo UK did put out some information around sales that'll be run, specifically certain games, and VGC put this info out there, and it seemed like it came from a press release as we're waiting on some pricing. But the reason I want to bring this up is because a lot of times for these big special sale events in one region, it tends to also be similar, if not the same, for things like Black Friday or Cyber Monday in other regions. So if you're thinking about buying a game on this list now, it might be worth holding off a week or two just to see what kind of sale and discount you can get on it. But let's start from the top here, as there are things, of course, outside of just titles that'll be on sale. We do know that there is this Mario Kart 8 Deluxe OLED bundle that's been discussed in multiple regions now, also in the UK. So kind of expect that to maybe be shown as well in the US and other regions. But if we take a look over on VGC, they do say Nintendo will also be discounting merchandise, including Lego Super Mario products, headphones, headsets, and the Kirby School Collection, which consists of stationery and other accessories. Now, on the eShop, they will have a sale, and again, we'll look into this when it goes officially live and they're able to go over all the different games, but this will start November 16th, and then others will start November 20th, so kind of breaking it up a bit here. All this will end on December 2nd, so plenty of time, of course, to pick up some of these digital games and maybe even get them loaded up on a Switch before it gets inevitably wrapped up and put under the tree. But starting here from the top, we have EA Sports FC 24, Disney Dreamlight Valley, that's the Ultimate Edition, Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope Gold Edition, Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time, Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga, Sonic Superstars, No Man's Sky, Dragon's Dogma, Dark Arisen, might be worth picking that up before the end of this fiscal year coming up, Persona Collection, then Monster Hunter Rise and Sunbreak Deluxe. These going live November 16th. Then November 20th, Metroid Prime Remastered, which, remember, that's a $40 game. I'm curious if they just discount it, I don't know, 20%. Is this just going to be like a $30 game or something? I mean, Metroid Prime Remastered at $40 is already an awesome price, so that's an easy pickup if you've been holding off on it. Fae Farm, Red Dead Redemption might be another good one to check out there. Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Bayonetta 3, and then Super Mario Odyssey. So some pretty good titles here, I'd say. I mean, we still have to see what the discount and the pricing is exactly, but these are now the games I'm expecting to also be on sale in other regions, so I would at least give it a week or so just to see what the pricing is here and if it gets announced in other regions, so you don't buy the game and then 3 days later, oh, now it's discounted, right? Just give a little bit of time and we'll see what we have going into next week, especially with Nintendo of America when they make their big announcement. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about what else in 2023, but more layoffs. This coming from Digital Bros Group, who outlined their plans going forward, as well as a significant reduction of their workforce. This was shown in a press release, you can see this here, where they say Digital Bros Group has reviewed its projects to align with the new competitive environment. This is expected to represent a reduction of approximately 30% of the global workforce, but no significant effect of restructuring costs is expected on the annual projected results for fiscal year 2024. Now, the thing that I found kind of interesting here is that they do outline their strategy going forward, saying the video game market has evolved since the pandemic to be more selective in terms of new games, with consumers increasingly reverting to well-established intellectual properties and playing these same games for longer periods. Digital Bro's strategy has had to adapt to this new and evolving competitive scenario, and will focus its efforts moving forward on the release of sequels and new versions of previously successful and established games, with a limited number of new, larger budgets productions. So this is something that I think many people were becoming kind of concerned with, especially as just costs keep going up for games. And that means that risk will continue to be lowered with these larger publishers, because I mean, you see it, a studio can create a big budget AAA game, it sell 2 million copies, that's a failure, and now they're cutting their own workforce in half or just shutting the entire studio down. Whereas if you're a publisher and, oh, you just want to make a sequel to a game that technically we've seen many times now, but it's the safe bet, we'll go that way. And that's kind of the issue that I think many people are looking at, saying, does that mean that we're going to get less and less creative new intellectual properties kind of pushed into gaming? Yeah, that's basically what we're seeing here. I mean, they're just spelling it out in this press release. That's kind of what I'm expecting as we go along here with these projects costing hundreds of millions of dollars. So, I mean, really look at the Game of the Year awards. A lot of people notice that category is all sequels or games released in franchises that have been around for quite a while. So that just could be the future going forward, with these prices and production costs going up and up and up and up. Why take a chance when you can play it safe and still make some money, right? So we'll see going forward if we hear more and more of this kind of talk with other publishers when they meet with investors around the idea of just more sequels. And Digital Bros Group, if you're wondering, okay, who exactly are they managing? Well, technically they're the parent company of like 505 Games, and that's why you see Control and Ghost Runner, for example, next to that press release, which makes a lot of sense now thinking of Control too. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're taking a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, are you picking up Persona 5 Tactica? Okay, 59% is just not interested. Hey, 25% say maybe later after a sale. It's an Atlas game. It will go on sale later on. Probably half off in an eShop sale or on PlayStation, Xbox, or Steam. But then 10% say yes, getting it on Game Pass. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to grab it there and try it out. And then 6% just say yes, buying it ASAP. And I'm sure there are the big-time Atlas or Persona fans who already have it pre-ordered. They're maybe even preloaded at this time. They're just waiting for that countdown timer to get to zero. But yeah, Game Pass seems, for me anyway, on this one, the likely path. There's just so many games that keep coming out. It's like, well, I can just load up Persona 5 Tactica on Game Pass and play it from time to time and check it out, because Super Mario RPG is also out on this Friday, and that's the one I really want to get to. Again, a lot of nostalgia there. But yeah, Persona 5 Tactica, I'll at least give it a shot, like I said, on Game Pass, and I'm sure we'll discuss it somewhat on the podcast this weekend. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Echo, says, we really need a category called the Best Gaming Refresh, which covers remakes, remasters, and re-releases to keep things more fair and clean. This is probably the best suggestion I've seen that's really been going around recently. Everyone seems to be coming to the same conclusion, which is funny because it definitely shows, again, the direction of the industry right now, taking some of those safe bets on remasters, remakes. This year, it felt like more than ever. And now, again, we hear the talks of heading more towards sequels. I think that also means heading more towards remasters and remakes as ways to bring in revenue without having to put out a ton in terms of cost. But yeah, I think going forward, next year it might be worth adding a remasters, remake category, because there's a lot of discussion around Resident Evil 4 being in that Game of the Year discussion, whereas new intellectual properties, maybe like a Starfield, or yeah, technically another sequel, sure, but Final Fantasy 16 being left out in its place. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. Was Dragon's Dogma 2 and the potential for it to be coming out in the next 4 or 5 months. Do you think that's Capcom's undisclosed game? And then also, what about the Nintendo Indie World Showcase? Which games were your favorite? What'd you think of the show overall? And then the idea of the games industry really moving more and more towards sequels. What do you think of that idea? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.